Just realize everybody is here to party.
Greetings and welcome, fellow barium inimists, fluoroscopists, and cross-table lateralists. I am your host,
Ron Jones!
and I am not a radiology technician. Nope, I'm a technologist, and I've been in this field long enough to know that just because you came into my emergency room at 2 a.m. with a chronic back pain times 6 years does not mean the x-ray should be stabbed. This is the Radiologic Technologist podcast for RadTechs by RadTechs. Thanks for listening.
Hi, this is Ron at the Radiologic Technologist podcast. I'm going to try something a little different here today. I have over the years acquired a lot of different resumes from applicants. And I've mentioned in the past how I was going to try to share them as a do's and don'ts kind of, how to make your resume look good and how to make it look bad. And so I'm going to attempt to share my screen and see if we can't go over some of these examples. So I'm going to share with you a resume. I have taken the name and phone number and address off the top. I've removed the phone numbers from the facilities. But this is kind of your basic template of what it should look like. First off, it should always you try to be one page. Front and back is fine. In fact, you probably will have to do front and back. This is an example. It's 2 pages, but it's front and back. The name would go up top, name, address, phone number. I put my LinkedIn profile URL up there. You don't have to do that. I do. It's got the objective, which is kind of a standard issue, what they're after. They're after to obtain a challenging radiologic technologist position where accuracy, organization, and integrity will be an asset, and to hopefully utilize my specialized education in management. So I'll caution you a little bit there. You don't want to come right out of the gate as a new hire already talking about management positions. It is ambitious. I don't hold it against this person. But you don't want to give too many, you don't want to drop too many things like that to make it look like you're not going to stick around unless you get a management position, because that might come off the wrong way. They list their education. Again, the main points here is objective, education, experience, additional activities to give you a little bit of insight on what they've been doing, and volunteer experience. So education shows they went to a bachelor's program. That tells me that it's more than an associate's program. They did a management option. They got decent grades, and they got 2 awards. Always show your awards if you get any. The experience, it shows they're a rad tech and where they're at. And I particularly like when they list the types of equipment that they use so that you can kind of decide, okay, they've got a Carestream digital system. We have a Carestream digital system. So this person should be able to jump right in and start shooting x-rays. They take patient history, their experience with PACS. Some of this is kind of basic stuff, but you do want to give some idea of what you are doing in that location. And then the next page, actually goes down. I think this gap is from a formatting error that I created when I put it in the editing mode. But it just shows where else they've worked and what equipment. I highly encourage you to put the equipment so they can see, are you working on GE equipment, Carestream, Philips, Siemens, Toshiba, Canon, what are you working on? And then under additional professional activities, they've got what they're members of, what they've done as far as being a clinical instructor, different things that you've done to kind of show you're not just a clock puncher. You don't just go clock punch, go in, work, go home, and don't do anything else in the field. We like to see that you are involved, and especially with a little bit of volunteer experience, because I mentioned in another video, the reason I'm in this field is to give back and to kind of give to humanity, if you will. If everybody was self-serving, we'd be in a lot of trouble. We all need to give back in some manner to society. And so it's good to see volunteer experience. This person has volunteered at different things. A first aid booth is health related. Being involved with the children is great. So I like this. This is your kind of your basic resume that hits all the high points. It doesn't go too long. It's your basic front and back one pager. Kind of your basic meat and potatoes, but it doesn't miss anything. Everything's nice and aligned. Everything's spelled correctly. Spell check's not picking up on any issue or issues. And it's just a good general basic overall resume. I'll note I was in, I learned at one point from a human resources person that you do not want to include your picture. I was always kind of on the fence about that. To me, as an administrator, it kind of gave me an insight into what this person looked like. Did they look professional? Was their hair well groomed? That kind of a thing. But HR doesn't like that, because if that person doesn't get an interview, they could say, well, I didn't get an interview because they saw what I looked like and they discriminated against me. And so it's not generally looked favorably upon by human resources to include a picture. We just want the typed word. We want it formatted in a nice way with no, there's really no reason to have spelling errors at this point, because there's spell check on everything. So that is an example of a good average resume. Let me see if I can go find another one. And here's an example of a resume that wasn't too tickled with. It's very sloppy. It is just one side, but it doesn't provide a whole lot of information. I've enlarged it so you can't see the name at the top. It does hit kind of on some of the main points: the objectives, education, experience, certifications, and reference available upon a request. I mean, that kind of goes without speaking or without saying, but this whole crazy tabbed margin thing is just really weird. To continue my career as a registered MRI technologist in a position which will expand my knowledge and offer opportunities for personal and professional growth. That is a good basic, I looked it up on Google, career objective. Very dry, very boring. It's okay if you can't think of anything else to say, but it doesn't really give me a lot of information. Education, they list the community college and where they went. They got an associate's, major in radiography. I can kind of figure that out based on what you're applying for here. Work experience from 2006 to the present, they did MRI exams and provided excellent patient care at a level 1 trauma primary stroke center. I would hope you provided excellent patient care. I don't know that you really need to tell me that. What's with the double asterisks and the single asterisks? I don't know. Protocol coordinator, cardiac MRI, 1.5 Tesla, 3 Tesla Siemens, 3 Tesla GE, ProMedica Children's Hospital in Toledo. And then prior to being an MRI tech, they were in X-ray. They had advanced duties. Must be important because it has a double asterisk, but I have no idea what that is. Team leader, core OR technologist. I assume that's like a lead. And they were the new tech and student preceptor, so there's some experience there. Prior to that, they were a tech aide, promoted to whatever a GXMO is. I have no idea. And they show their certifications. So, Word has templates on it. MS Word, Microsoft Word has templates on it. All you have to do is pick one and fill in the information, replace what's there with your own, and it will look very professional. This just doesn't excite me. Now, does that mean this person's a bad tech? No. Does that mean they're a bad employee? No. Just means maybe they don't know how to format a document. Or it could mean that they did not want to take the time to create a decent resume. And I think in today's day and age, with everybody growing up with computers, you really ought to know this stuff. And if you're a little bit older maybe and not as versed, you need to get caught up with this. Because if you don't want to take the time to use a computer to print out a decent resume or draft a decent resume, are you taking the time to do proper patient documentation? Are you stammering, stuttering through the electronic medical record because you're not quite comfortable with the computer? I mean, what's the deal here? So that was just one example of a resume I just wasn't very impressed with. And remember, your resume is the first thing that people are going to see. You know, a lot of human resource departments start weeding candidates out before we ever even see them in the department. So if you have misspellings, if you turn in a resume, I'm pointing to my other screen. If you turn in a resume with an online application for the hospital and you have things on there that don't match up chronologically, that's a red flag. And a lot of this stuff gets thrown out without even getting advanced to the imaging department. So how it looks and grammar and margins and that kind of thing play a big part in this. Let me see if I can find another one. Okay, I pulled up another one. This is going to be an example of one that could have been done better. I actually hired this person. It's actually a long story. They worked for me. They decided the grass was greener somewhere else. So they quit and went for about I think it was less than a year. And they came back and they wanted back in. And we had a long talk about, taking off and coming back and that kind of thing. But he was a quality guy. He does quality work. Who hasn't thought about leaving for greener grass and then coming, finding out it wasn't all that you hoped it would be. So regardless, he's still there. Great guy. I took his name off and I'll show you this one. And here's what I would have done better. You should see that we've got large paragraphs of information is what I didn't care for primarily. He does have education and experience with some awards and acknowledgement, but you've got to, just like when you're reading a book, and especially in today's age, if you read, any online source, they have started to break up paragraphs into short, choppy, 2-sentence paragraphs, mostly because a lot of people do their reading on their phone, and a paragraph like these on a phone would you'd have to scroll quite a bit to read, and it just gets monotonous seeing text after text after text. But on this resume, resumes are usually submitted in paper, and you look at them on paper. I would still break that up because this whole first section is quite a bit of, put some bullet points in there, maybe use some bold lettering, maybe some italics, break that up, make it interesting, do something there. I'm not a big fan of this light font, this light blue font. Just stick with black. You can pop some words with some red or something if it's important. If you were a lead tech somewhere or something you wanted to highlight, but this is just a date. You don't need to make a date a different color. It looks like spell check's picking up on some spelling errors. Your reader roll is misspelled. Pick is all capitalized, non-tunneled, should be hyphenated. So here's an opportunity to look a little bit better so that you've got your eye on the detail by doing a spell check on your resume. And that's pretty much it. I mean, they hit all the highlights, nothing super exciting, but these paragraphs are just too much. Did you need to give that much information? Typically, you want paragraphs kind of like this. You're just wanting to hit highlights. I mean, in the interview is where you can talk about all the things that you did and what you're good at and what you're known for and that kind of thing. Resumes are really just hot spots, highlights. Here's where I worked. Here's what equipment I worked with. Here's what procedures I did. Here's outstanding awards I won. Not paragraphs of text. So I just wanted to show you that one for that reason. And now we'll just see if we can't find another one real quick. All right, so here's another one I'm going to show you. This one is, I labeled it under too busy. There's so much stuff on it crammed in. It is a 2-pager. Let's go ahead and jump on over to it. So this is a tech that applied, and there's some things I'll immediately jump out at me is there's just very little spacing between it all. It's just packed full of information. And sometimes it might feel that way to you. That you may think, I really want them to know about all this stuff that I do and where I've been and what I've done and how do I cram it all into 2 pages. But really, you've just got to remember that this resume is a highlight. It's just for you to hand out like a calling card. You're going to sell yourself in your interview. Yes, the resume has to get you into the interview, but simple basic techniques that we've already talked about can get you to that point. Not being sloppy, not having stuff all over the page, not misspelling a lot of things. This one, it just has so much stuff on it. And again, it's not really broken up. It's big paragraph after big paragraph after big paragraph. Put some bullet points in there, summarize. The other thing that I'll quickly mention is, radiology is a small world. You will get to know people across the country. Depends on, how far up in the radiology world you get. I've been in management for about 10 years now, and a part of several organizations that allow me to travel across the country and meet a lot of people. Even just being in your state society, I always encourage you to join your state society and get to know the technologists in your local state society and network. And that's a whole nother episode, but it is not uncommon for me to reach out to other technologists that I know. If you say that you have worked at a certain facility, if I used to work there, I can reach out to the people that I know and say, hey, did you know this person? What did you think of this person? There are, I can go on Facebook and I can look up your profile on Facebook or on LinkedIn if you have a LinkedIn profile. And if there's craziness or silliness or improper things posted online, that will be a factor in deciding whether or not you get an interview or get past the interview. So keep in mind that it's a small world and you cannot burn a bridge somewhere and expect it to go unnoticed. I have seen techs that show up and do a quasi decent job, not the best. And if you reach back to their prior employer at some point, they'll say, yeah, I was glad when they turned in their notice to leave. And gee, I wish I'd have known that before I hired them, that kind of thing. So you just always want to leave on good terms, because it's just too small of a career field to have a half-baked exit strategy, as in Half-Baked the movie, if you've seen that, where he quits his job. What else? So this one's super busy. I didn't need to know, on this second page here, he worked for E.O. Johnson Company as a salesman accounts representative. This resume is so busy. Take that off of there and spread the rest of this stuff out. Truck driving school, I don't need to know that. Take that off there and spread this stuff out. And this font is, this is 10 font. I like to see 12 to 14 font. That's really industry standard. I'd say 12 is probably your minimum. So, the fact that he had to bring it down to 10 tells me either he had too much stuff he's trying to cram in, so he had to reduce it, or he just doesn't know that 10 is a rather small font to be using. So again, give yourself spacing, spread out your paragraphs, give enough information to get the point across. But so here he says, I was a traveling tech, and here's 3 places that I was a traveler that you can contact. And this was in the past. This was from 2016 to, let's say, 2019. So in 3 years, he had 3 contracts that he did. And then here's another one for a year that he did. And then another one where he was the coach driver. And then another one. And then another. So, do I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Do I need 7 job references? I mean, they're not the references, it's where he's worked, but you know, we want to see your work history, but we don't need 10 years crammed on one page. Um, if I want to call and check, I can call the last 3. I mean, do I really care how you were perceived at Barron Memorial Medical Center in April of 1995? No, I'm not. I'm good with the last 3 places you're at. So this is just another example. Keep it short, keep it relevant. They did keep it to 2 pages. That's good. They didn't do the opening part that says, you know, why are they applying? What are their goals? They just went straight into all this work experience and education. No extracurricular, no volunteerism, no, you know, and maybe that's not easy to do as a traveler. Maybe that's part of the downside of being a traveler is you don't get to be on your kid's PTO or volunteer at the YMCA or whatever. But this was another one I wanted to show you. Overall, it was just too busy. It was too much stuff. It was difficult to process. This next one is another example of just a basic, you know, if you don't have the wherewithal to make a nice fancy resume, but you want to do an adequate job, this one is your basic, generic, meets all the criteria. And let's flip over there real quick. So this is, here's an objective, clean and simple. He uses separator bars so that you can tell where each job starts and stops. He's mainly stayed at one facility for the, you know, duration. I mean, it's Providence, Alaska Medical Center from 2005 to 2014. Did we need to do 3 sub-ones on there? Probably not. Maybe we could have combined those. But, you know, maybe he's thinking, well, I've only had 2 or 3 jobs in the past 15 years, so I need to list something. He didn't even really use up a full front and back. So maybe he was concerned. Down, you know, he's got a little paragraph down here about what he's done. So, you know, it's all there. It's got his education. He's been in the field for a while. He's had jobs. It's just, you know, this is another one of those, either I don't know how to do it or it's a bare minimum effort. You know, I interviewed this person and it was a don't know how to do it, which I will not fault him for that. It was something he just wasn't shown. Bottom line is, would he have been a good technologist? And I think he would have been. So here's what I want to show you. It's a very nice template. I think this is kind of a standard template, but it makes really good use of formatting, bullets, and tabbing in your margins a little bit. And let me just show you what I really like about this one. Pop over to that. No, not that. Pop over to the other screen here. Immediately, right, and I took his name and address and everything off the top, but immediately, right off the bat, he shows highlights of his qualifications. That's exactly what I want. And first thing, I want to know, what do I need to glean out of this resume? What's really important? Do I have to read the whole thing and dig through it to try and figure out why I would want to hire you? And there, right at the top, bam, highlights. I've got this degree. I'm bilingual. I'm certified. I've got years experience. I'm familiar with different kinds of equipment. I'm a team player, right there in the top. Then he goes into his related experience from here to there. I worked at this place, here to there, I worked at this place. He lists some of the equipment that he worked on and finishes up with references available upon request. That's always neutral, nice down at the bottom. That just professionally, politely tells me if I want to know some names, I can contact him. He'll give them to me. You don't need to list your references on the application. If I want them, I'll ask for them. That's the kind of industry standard. I showed you one earlier. The applicant listed a contact person at every single location. That was on that busy resume, and that's part of why it was busy, because they listed every single person at every single location and their phone number and all that stuff. This is an excellent one-pager. He actually, he's been in the biz since 2010, so He's got a decade of experience. He had no need to fill up front and back. I think this is a great one pager. So kudos to this one. Let's see what else we can find. Okay, got another one here that I think just felt like he had a lot of experience that he needed to share. What you'll see here on the screen share is lots of stuff. I took his name and address off the top, but pretty beefy. You know, your professional objective really needs to be just a couple of sentences, maybe three. He's got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences. Some of them are run-on sentences. So, you know, the equivalent of 7 sentences in here. Again, you know, pretty beefy size paragraph. Qualifications and licenses. I'm fine with putting down that you're ART'd. Why put a separate line for MRI? Why not just put ART and then your parentheses and then your R, comma M if he's MRI through another organization, then just put that other organization on there. CPR, extensive knowledge of the American College of Radiology. See, and he put ACR in case I don't know that the American College of Radiology is also called the ACR. You put that in there for me. I have performed over 30 MRI accreditations over the past 11 years. Good grief, that's a lot. I'm sorry, dude. That sucks for you. I can't stand doing those. I developed a successful, see, this is qualifications and licenses. I'd rather just see your licenses and then under your work history put down, and see, you see it over here. He did ACR accreditations. So now you've got it in this sentence, and then you've got it in your individual jobs. It's overkill. Experience with many different MR platforms. Dude, I just want to know, is the GE 1.5? This is a GE 1.5. This is a GE 1.5. I mean, these are all GE 1.5s, and then an open, and then a Siemens. I personally, even though I've done MRI before for a short period of time, can't tell you the difference between these. I guess they're models. I don't know. Didn't need all that. I think it's excess. And then he tells me under qualifications, I have excellent communication skills. Okay, good. Work history, currently employed as an MRI tech. I can perform head, spine, musculoskeletal, breast, abdominal. I currently work on a GE. So here we go again with listing the GEs. And I am proficient in most all aspects of MRI. Well, I'd say that's pretty apparent. You don't need to list all of the protocols that you do. And back up here, I also work here for 9 years. I was a supervisor. I provided supervision, which means I did all this stuff. And again, there's your ACR, technical training advice. I worked with radiologists and managers. And then next job, well-versed in MRI physics and cross-sectional anatomy. Well, I hope so. I mean, you're an MRI tech. I mean, some of this stuff kind of goes without saying, right? I mean, again, he's listing, I did musculoskeletal, I did abdominal, I did breast and body and angiography. You know, you're an MRI tech. You should know that stuff. I mean, maybe there's some specialty if you want to call out a specialty, but I wouldn't consider that specialty. He can MIP, okay. And then 99, same thing. Here's where I did my open. And again, I did neurovascular, musculoskeletal, general body. And then he was a medical assistant. But here's where it gets interesting. There's page 3. So what do we got? A total of 3 pages. That's too much stuff. And interestingly, education, boom, that's what you want to see. Succinct, to the point, bulleted. Hey, for education, I did my post-grad here, I got my bachelor's here, and general studies here. Boom, done, move on. That's all I need. I don't need to hear all this stuff at every job. Professional affiliations, he's got one. Okay. Achievements, good. You got some stuff there. Service, good. Did some volunteers. I like it. Interest. Could this have all been kind of somehow bundled up together and saved a quarter of a page? Maybe. And you got activities and hobbies. So he has interests and hobbies. So that's good to know. And then again, what do we say about references? There's a half a page, a third of a page. Don't need that. Don't need to know what your references are. I'll ask for them. That's pretty industry standard. So try to keep your resume to 2 pages. This was a fail on that aspect. Just way too much detail provided. Probably would have gotten past HR because they'd just be deer in headlights on this stuff. They'd be like, I don't know, let Ron figure it out. And then to me, it would come. I'm not really seeing spelling mistakes. My Grammarly's not working for some reason, but Word is trying to fix this stuff. So, could they have caught that maybe? Maybe. I'm not a big stickler on the hyphenated, full-time and for state, but that there is some there. Space is missing there. So I don't know. Not my favorite. Let's just put it that way. Let's see what else we can find. Okay, I think maybe we'll do one more. This one is another bare minimum, kind of middle of the road. It's okay. Let's just pop over there and I'll show you. Share. I took the name and address and phone number off the top. He's got this is a nice little to the point objective. Hey man, I just want to obtain a position at a progressive organization using my experience, training, and knowledge of MRI, CT, computers, and management skills. So this kind of reeks a little bit of a Googled objective. It's kind of a basic comment, kind of something I see it fairly often. I like that he threw in that he knows MRI and CT. That way I know right off the bat that he's dual modality. Computers, not necessary. Everybody knows computers now. I wouldn't put that in there. Management, again, we talked about that earlier. This and the one I showed you earlier, it's in their opening objective, the word management. So that tells me they think they're qualified for management. Maybe they've done management in the past. I'm not looking for management. I'm not even thinking about putting them in management. I want to know that they can do tech work, and that's what I want to see in this resume. It's okay that you drop it, just don't drop it too many times. So, because we as administrators don't want you don't want to give us the impression that we're going to train you and then you're going to leave if you don't get promoted soon. Or, I see that too often when I cross-train. You cross-train somebody into MRI, and as soon as they get the knowledge, they're gone somewhere else to make higher MRI wages. So anyway, just basic. He shows his objective, his employment, his education, and his certs. It's all good, decent formatting, but I tend to get a little lost here in the middle. I'd like some kind of separation. If it were me, I probably would have come along and bolded maybe the names of the companies. Like where's the company at? Here. So he worked. So Oak Valley is where he worked. So bold that. Take that one back off because that's what he did. I think I would. I don't know. Do you put what you did at the top, or do you put the name of the company at the top? This is okay. It tells you what you did first and then the name of the company. So, I would try to go through and highlight something or make something stand out. This is just a big glob of text. At least it's separated by a space. Education, Loma Linda, Associate, Special Imaging Technology, Bachelor's. Experienced in Siemens. He spelled Siemens wrong. MRI Vision 1.5 Tesla, and Impact Expert 1.0 Tesla, and the GECT scanners, CTI, and Highlight Advantage machine. I'm not sure what that is. An old picker. That's awesome. We've got a picker on there. Vista picker. GE Echo Speed, Light Speed, PAX for computer skills, and then management skills. Between 2010 and 2016, I independently contracted with FedEx Ground and FedEx Home Delivery to pick up and deliver packages. I invested in, managed, and operated 2 separate companies. So that's here. Okay, so he was in radiology from here to here, and then he said, I don't want to do it anymore. 2007. So from 98 to 2, so for 9 years, he did X-ray, CT, and MR, or some combination of those 3, and then decided, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to do my own thing. He was the manager of an internet company for 2 years. All the while, from 2010 to 2016, ran his own company on the side. So wait. So, okay, so he's in radiology for a while, goes to work for somebody else, says, I want to work for somebody else, I want to work for myself. And then for 6 years, so he was out of the game for 6 years, and then decided to jump back into it in 2016. And so he's just telling us here at the end, between 10 and 16, I worked for myself, which is smart. You hear the area vac coming, must have a trauma across the street. So it's smart to identify gaps. That's another good point. If you have a gap in your resume, we need to know why. We need to know were you taking care of your children? Were you running your own company like this one says? Is that gonna, maybe I should just pause the video. It doesn't bother me. I'm in the hospital rental house behind the hospital's where I'm staying, so I get my own place. And literally the hospital's like right across the street, and that helicopter is going to land like right across the street. So anyway, always identify when you have gaps and say, well, you don't have to get personal. And I don't technically, you can't really ask what you did in your time off. But if we identify gaps, it's going to be concerning. This would have concerned me. You're out of the field for 6 years. Yes, you can learn it. I'm learning it right now. I'm back in there learning how to do X-ray, CT, and ultrasound. I haven't done like 5-6 years, but I was still in radiology. I was just in management. This guy popped out and did some FedEx stuff for a while. So this is just another example of your basic resume. It works. It gives the basic information. And I'm a bit of a kind of a nerd anyway when it comes to computers. I like to see things churched up a little bit. Take some extra time to show me that your resume is better than standard average resume. This one doesn't do that at all. It's pretty humdrum. So I think that's going to probably be about all I can pull out. Let me look in my files just a little bit more. I think I've got one more I found here, and this is another basic, meets the criteria, no real wow factor, but does a decent job. Let's pop over there and look at that real quick. I had to mag it up because it's a PDF. I couldn't remove the name. So professional summary, credentials, experience, and education. And he's got education down here, but if I scroll it down, you'll see the name at the top. So this is a good example of your bullet point summary. It just says professional summary. I got a bachelor's degree. I got licensed in these modalities, and I can start IVs. Boom, bulleted. Not a bunch of, I did cervical spines and abdomens and feet and hands. Credentials, I got ART'd, Washington, blah, blah, blah. Experience, I worked here at this date. I did these pieces of equipment. I worked here on these dates, these pieces of equipment, the basic stuff. I worked on it, and you make sure to list what machine it is. It's an MRI GE 1.5. It's a Siemens 1.5. He tells you what equipment he used. So You know, no wow factor, but gets the job done. It's all there. I don't mind that, but you got to remember, especially if you're in a highly populated city, if you're in LA or New York City or Dallas or somewhere or Phoenix, where they may get 20 resumes for one position, you want your resume to stand out, and this one does not. You want to, you know, make sure you put your name at the top and your phone number and your address. You can put a profile page if you have one, like a LinkedIn profile or something. Try to separate things out, you know, with the horizontal bars separating each section. Use bullet points, use numbers, use bold type, use italics, sprinkle in a little color if you want to burn your color ink cartridges. But keep it simple, keep it to one page front and back. You know, if you're getting up into management, if you're getting up into the C-suite, it's acceptable to start having a couple of pages because you have a lot of experience in a lot of different things, and a two-page front and back is pretty common. But for frontline, X-ray, CT, you know, whatever you're applying for, whittle it down. If you're interviewing managers, like most managers, they've got 5 to 10 interviews just like you that they've got to do. And when they're in there interviewing you, there's other work to be done. And I mean, I was doing interviews the other day, and craziness broke out in the lobby about these stupid masks that we're having to wear. Somebody didn't want to wear a mask and made a big scene, and you know, I had to go deal with that. There's a lot of things that we all have to get done, and interviews aren't always the funnest thing to do, but they're necessary, and we want to put our best foot forward. I want to give my focused attention on the candidates. The candidates should give their focused attention on the interview process. I've already done some other videos and blog posts on common questions and what we're looking for when we ask those questions. I'm not going to go over those now. You can maybe I'll link those in the comment below. That might help you out. So there's some resume do's and don'ts. I hope this helps you out. Remember to give us a thumbs up and like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'm happy to answer them. And good luck.